USAA and Mass Communications present San Antonio Crackdown. Your hosts for this evening's special broadcast from KENS TV, Chris Maru. From KMOL TV, Deborah Daniels. And from KSAT TV, Bob Salter. And reporting live from the Crackdown Helpline telephone bank, Kathleen O'Connor from KABB TV. And also joining us live from the Crackdown Tip Line telephone bank from KWEX TV, Victor Landa, and KVDA, Patricio Espinoza.
Good evening. It was not by accident that we chose this mock courtroom as a setting for San Antonio Crackdown. You see, in courtrooms, both state and federal, scattered throughout our viewing area, drug cases are clogging the dockets. Our criminal justice system is being stretched to its very limit in fighting the war on drugs. Our law enforcement officers in courts need your help. And tonight you're going to have to put yourself in the role of judge to decide whether you're going to become a soldier in this war or one of its victims.
This is the prosecutor's table. Many of us think of this spot in the courtroom as the ultimate front line in the war on drugs. Here is where the drug thugs are put on trial, their crimes explained to the judge and the jury. Here, once again, is your chance to get involved, because the battle won't ever be won waiting for the courts to do alone the job we must all do.
At home, we can often ignore the problems of the world, but when you're called to sit on a jury, you have no choice. You're forced to listen to the facts and then forced to make a decision. Tonight, we're asking you to sit in this jury box and to reach your own verdict. And we hope that verdict will be that you must join in this fight against illegal drugs. The police and courts can't win the war alone.
In just a few minutes, we'll connect you with two very important phone numbers. One will connect you with the people manning the phones behind us, professional drug counselors.
The other number will connect you with police detectives so you can give them tips on possible drug suspects. The people answering these phones speak both Spanish and English, español e inglés. Esta noche, dos estaciones de televisión transmitirán este programa. With us is Victor Landa to tell you where to tune for the Spanish translation. Victor.
Sí, dentro de unos minutos les vamos a mostrar en sus pantallas dos números de teléfono muy importantes. Uno lo pondrá en contacto con detectives de la policía aquí mismo, en este centro. Lo que se busca es información sobre posibles narcotraficantes o supuestos traficantes de droga. El otro número lo pondrá en contacto con consejeros profesionales que le ayudarán con consejos e información sobre cómo superar su adicción a las drogas. Los consejeros hablan tanto inglés como español. Ahora, si usted quiere escuchar este programa en español, cambie su televisor, por favor, al canal 41 KWEX o KBDA, canal 60.
Thank you, Victor. The fact that 7 of the 8 San Antonio television stations have put competition aside tonight to air this program together is positive proof there is no exclusive in this horrible story.
Likewise, the use of illegal drugs is not exclusive to a neighborhood, to any race or any sex.
You cannot deny it any longer. Illegal drugs are in your schools, in your neighborhoods, possibly in your home. No place in our viewing area is untouched.
Of course, many of us would prefer to deny that our children are at risk, that they could become addicted to drugs or abuse alcohol. Well, last May, the Crackdown production team surveyed our area school districts. Only 11 of the 17 districts participated. Some declined, allegedly because it was too near finals at the time. Others refused to admit there is a drug or alcohol problem. But the question asked, in your opinion, how many kids in your school use alcohol or drugs? And here are the answers from 4 school districts.
I'd say 40,
Yo diría
35 to
40,
40%.
35 a 40%.
What if I included, were you including alcohol, or if I include alcohol in that?
No, that wouldn't include alcohol. I think that's higher, probably 60%. Mostly marijuana and alcohol abuse. There is some cocaine, but not quite as much. I think mostly peer pressure, and it's a thing to do on the weekends. And when you go to parties, that's what's there is, you know, joints, marijuana, and alcohol.
I would say about 50% of the students in Southland High School would use any kind of drugs. Party marijuana would be one of the main drugs used in Southland High School. I would say like about 30% of the 50% use marijuana, as well as party alcohol. Many students at this school use drugs due to problems at home, just to think they're cool or like try to fit in with other people. Such like when you go to parties, you always see people, like there'll be kegs, you know, they'll be giving free beer, or other people would have alcohol and they'll offer it to you, as well as drugs. I mean, you could just be standing around and you'll smell it, you know, like especially marijuana, because that's like the major drug, you know, but like alcohol is the drug most abused by everyone.
About really 95%.
You think 95% means? What do you think they're using?
Well, mainly alcohol. And for the drugs, it's usually just marijuana. I think they find something missing in their life, so they just want to try anything they can get their hands on.
I don't know a lot of people that use drugs, but alcohol, it's pretty common. I don't know a lot of people that like are addicted to alcohol or anything, but I know there's a lot of people that use. See, there's about, what, 1,700 in the school. I guess about a third of them have used or used something different. It's something that you're not supposed to do.
Well, so far, according to our survey, alcohol and marijuana seem to be the most prevalent drugs used by area school students. But as you heard, cocaine is creeping its way into our teenagers' lives. What other drugs are our kids trying? Well, you'll hear reports from the 7 other schools that participated in our survey later in the program.
Chris, a recent U.S. congressional survey estimates that 1 in every 100 people is addicted to cocaine. Now, the figures represent more than just numbers. These are people that we're talking about, people like you and me, but people who are suffering from the disease of addiction.
If you are a drug user or you are concerned about a loved one or a friend who is, there is help available tonight. San Antonio Crackdown is operating a free confidential helpline. Here is Patricio Espinosa to tell us about it. Patricio?
Yes, Bob. Tonight we have more than 50 people here with us, professional counselors, private practice, volunteers that are ready to take your call, ready to help you. So please call. The telephone is 1-800-955-6333. Again, it's 1-800-955-6333. These professionals are here for you to talk, to help you, to let you know what you can do tonight in your fight against drugs. As you know, it's very hard to talk to your parents sometimes, or to your brother or to your sister. So here's these people, very special people that have experience, that are ready to listen to your problems, and that hopefully tonight you can call us and we can talk. Also remember that there are professional counselors that speak Spanish, they're bilingual. Hay consejeros que hablan español e inglés. Si usted necesita ayuda, por favor, llámenos. Estamos para ayudarle, estamos para servirlo. El teléfono aquí es el 1-800-955-6333. Nuevamente, esta es la línea de ayuda y no cuesta absolutamente nada. Y sobre todo, estas líneas están libres, nadie sabe quién es usted y no vamos a averiguarlo tampoco. Estamos aquí nada más que para ayudarlo. So please call. Please call. The number again is 1-800-955-6333 and help us. Join us tonight in these 2 hours in our fight against drugs.
Patricio, by way of clarification, do people calling in have to worry about confidentiality, you know, their names being given out to the police, anything like that?
No, they don't, Bob. The phone calls are not being traced, so we don't know who you are. Actually, we do care who you are, but you don't have to tell us. We're just here to help you. You can tell us your name, but we won't broadcast your name.
Thank you, Patricio.
Who are the people responsible for selling drugs in our community to our children? Well, tonight, through video wanted posters, you'll be seeing pictures of some of the people federal agencies and local police are looking for. They've been placed on their most wanted lists. San Antonio Crackdown is offering a $1,000 reward for their arrest and indictment.
Mario Alberto Salinas Trevino is a federal fugitive. He is a Hispanic male, 5 foot 8 inches tall. He has brown eyes, black hair, and weighs approximately 196 pounds. His last known address was 15,526 Cloud Top, San Antonio. Salinas was one of the leaders of an international cocaine and marijuana smuggling ring operating between the United States and Mexico. He escaped from the detention facility in San Antonio on April 15th. He is scheduled to stand federal trial on October 29, 1990.
To help police track down drug dealers, you don't have to sit here on the witness stand tonight and testify in public. As we mentioned earlier, police officers and federal agents are manning a special San Antonio Crackdown tips line. Victor Landa is standing by live in the telephone center. Victor, how does it work?
Well, Chris, it's surprisingly very simple, and here to help us explain to you exactly how this works is the executive producer of this program, Greg McAleese. Now, Greg, exactly how does this tip line work?
Well, Victor, as people call in, they're going to be asked a series of questions, very specific questions about drug activity in this region. We really need to get as detailed an amount of information as possible. That's what the difference is between an average tip and a tip that we're going to be able to pursue quickly.
Okay, now, Greg, who needs to call in? Who should call in?
Any citizen who has any information about drug activity that is going on, about drug dealers, locations where drugs are being dealt, we want them to give us a call. If they know, if they've seen these fugitives that are being featured tonight, give us a call. All calls are kept confidential. People can remain anonymous, and they'll be given a code number if they want, or they can give us their name and a callback number.
Thank you very much, Greg. Lo que decía el señor McAleese es que el número que deben llamar es el 1-800-688-7867. Lo que se busca es información sobre el tráfico de drogas que usted conozca. Muchas veces he oído yo en el pasado que gente se queja, que hay mucho tráfico de droga, mucho crimen. Siempre quieren saber qué podemos hacer nosotros para combatirlo. Pues este es el momento que usted puede hacer algo. Puede levantar su teléfono y llamar al 1-800-688-7867. Aquí hay oficiales de la policía, ya se oyen los teléfonos que están sonando. Los oficiales de la policía van a tomar su información y empezar a hacer algo al respecto.
Victor, we've seen these video wanted posters, but the viewers can turn in suspected drug dealers other than the ones profiled this evening, right?
Oh, yes, of course. I was saying right now in Spanish that I've heard many times people complain about the fact that they feel frustrated because they feel that there's not much they can do to help fight crime. They feel helpless. Well, tonight, you don't have to be helpless. Tonight, you can do something. If there's anything going on in your neighborhood that you want to call in about, go ahead and do it. It's 1-800-688-STOP.
All right, thank you, Victor. What about poor people with drug problems? Free treatment for alcohol and/or drug-addicted indigents is available in San Antonio, but the services are limited and the waiting lists are long. At Healthcare Services, formerly known as Bexar County Mental Health Mental Retardation Center, a 7 or 8 day stay to detox is normal. After that, though, if you're lucky, you move on to other centers, or you try to stay clean all on your own.
Standing each other, helping each other. There's nobody out there.
Meet 6 people who, under normal circumstances, probably wouldn't hang out together. But now, a common thread binds them. Each is fighting alcohol or drug addiction, and together they hope to help one another get a handle on their disease.
It's embarrassing to be in another treatment center, and every time I go into one, I've been in some of the nicest ones, and then every time I go out and drink, it goes down further and further. And now I'm not putting this place down, but here I am in one because I don't even have any insurance to pay for where I am, so I get this free.
How many treatment centers have you been in?
Oh, Jimmy. This will be about 10 or 11.
You say you're an alcoholic, and I'm sober right now, and when I think and say that I'm an alcoholic, I feel dirty. I feel like there's something wrong with me. I'm different and I'm diseased. When I'm drunk, I don't care. It takes away all, I don't care. I feel free. I'm drunk and I'm a happy drunk, and so I'm okay. But when I'm sober and I think about it, I feel dirty now. I'm embarrassed. My boyfriend said to me the other day before I came in here, "Look, Maggie, you are an alcoholic." And the way he said it made me so ashamed and made me feel so ugly. But then again, why me? Why do I have to have this disease? What did I do? I don't want to be this way. I want to be happy. I want to be energetic. I want to be back working. I want to go and be doing exercises and, be somebody that somebody can admire. And I don't feel anybody can admire me because I feel so low.
look what it did to me. Brought me here. I never thought I'd be in a detox center. Never did. Always drank. Didn't think I'd do anything. After I started drinking, 2 o'clock came around. Boom. No more selling beer, no stores, anything. Yeah, but there was that liquid paper. Yeah, it's an inhalant. I started from 1 bottle, and I ended up doing like 5 bottles a day. 5 bottles. I'd sneak up to the front house, vape and everything. Yeah, I'd inhale. It's like spray. It's worse than spray paint. But you know, dangerous thing about it is, like I said, you can hurt someone.
I have lost my family, lost at my jobs and everything because I became addicted to alcohol, marijuana, and then I started going to coke. So I'm just got tired of drinking, got tired of using, and mostly tired that I might hurt somebody and being on coke or losing my mind and spending. So for myself, I'm very grateful for this program because it has been helping me through these days, and when I leave here, I don't know what's going to happen.
Anger and tears are a normal part of the process.
I just wish I was normal. I told you she is normal.
Sure you're normal, Maggie. You're a normal person who suffers from the disease of addiction.
I'm not normal. If I were normal, I wouldn't have a disease, would I? Why can't I be like a normal person and have 2 drinks, you know, when you go out to dinner, not 1 anymore?
Okay, tell me
why is it that if I have 1, I want another one, and then I want another one, and another one, and another one? I'm not normal, and I'm never going to be normal, and I'm ashamed. I'm not normal. And I mean, what you're saying to me is it's a disease, and you're always going to be an alcoholic. Well, then I'm never going to be normal, and I'm different.
For right now, I'm here, and I'm going to take advantage of it. I don't know about tomorrow. Maybe there's no more beds anywhere. I might have to hit those streets. The only help I got is 7 days where I get myself together. I'm not thinking about making friends or anything. I'm thinking about myself and maybe about going to one of those programs. Maybe one of those persons that comes over here and says this and that might give me a room and board for overnight until they have a bed in one of these places. That's the hardest part.
We need a whole lot more facilities here in San Antonio. There's a lot of drug addicts, alcoholics, people that shoot up cocaine, heroin. They've never seen any of the effects of what these guys go through. What happens to your mind. You deteriorate everything. You lose your family. You lose everything. Everything you got. You might have a nice house, a nice car. You lose all that, all in one thing. Cocaine. It'll steal you. It'll take your life from you. Heroin. It'll take your life from you. Alcohol. It'll kill you also. All these drugs do kill you.
Parents, man. Look at us. Where are your kids when they come home at 2 o'clock in the morning? What are they doing?
While you're asleep.
Yeah.
Well,
are they out
pretend
partying?
you're asleep.
Are you just going to blow them off? Why don't you pay attention to them? Find out what they're doing. You know, look at me.
With us now is Moses Esquivel from the Center for Healthcare Services in San Antonio. Moses, if someone tonight is watching and they don't have a lot of money, but they've got a drug or an alcohol problem, what is out there for them, and how long are they going to have to wait to get help?
Well, the Center for Healthcare Services has a screening and evaluation unit that is the intake point for both inpatient and outpatient services. If they came to our center, if they're looking for inpatient services, odds are they would be in within a couple of days. If they came to our outpatient services, it would be like the end of September now to get a treatment slot.
The end of September?
The end of September, yes, ma'am.
What's the biggest problem that you're seeing? Has it changed over recent years, the type of addiction that people are coming in for treatment for?
Yes, it has. We're starting to see the mixed addictions, the alcohol and the heroin and the coke and the benzodiazepines. Big problems with the benzodiazepines, the prescribed medications. In the heroin scene, you're seeing a change to, say, 20% mixed addiction of heroin and cocaine, and then we're seeing a lot of people come in with crack and cocaine now that require inpatient settings initially and cannot be provided service on an outpatient basis.
It's more difficult to treat when they're mixed addictions?
It's more difficult, it's more complex, and now we're seeing people coming in with mental health and substance abuse problems, which create another arena.
Is it adequate what we have now? What do you need to do a better job to reach more people so that people don't have to wait until September?
Well, the Center for Alcohol Services focuses primarily on indigent, but the concept of indigent has changed in this country. It's moved towards affordable services, and that's what we need. We need to have more services available on an affordable basis. Affordable to a person seeking treatment is something where he could pay for his services, say, in the range of $30 to $50 a month, rather than $50 to $100 on an outpatient basis per week.
Is it a revolving door at the center? Are you treating a lot of the same people over and over again?
The poor have very few places to go, so the indigent keep coming back to where they can afford services, or the places that will provide services, either ourselves, the state hospital, the county jail, or the Bexar County Hospital District. And usually don't think of a jail as a treatment facility, but a lot of people with substance abuse problems and mixed diagnosis wind up for one of another place in the county jail.
You're down there in the trenches with the casualties of the drug war. What is your prognosis for our society and drugs? Do you see any end in sight? Do you have any cause for hope?
Well, I don't see an end in sight. In fact, we got an additional 600 treatment slots in a research grant with the medical school. And as rapidly as we fill those positions up, as we open those slots up, they get filled and more people come in demanding more services. As treatment slots are made available, more and more people apply for them. So we don't see an end in sight.
All right. Thank you, Moses.
While staying in San Antonio, accommodations for part of the Crackdown production crew were furnished by the Sierra Royale Suite Hotel. Vehicles for the Crackdown production crew were furnished by Fiesta Lincoln Mercury. Additional accommodations for the Crackdown crew were furnished by the Econo Lodge.
We do have some good news about a bad subject. Both our tip line and our helpline are pretty busy right now. A lot of people calling in either to get help for drug problems or perhaps to turn in a drug dealer. If you're having trouble getting through, please call again. We are going to get around to you. You know, when it comes to drugs, many of us are blind to what goes on around us, sometimes by choice, other times because we're just too caught up in the routine of our daily lives. Yet the war on drugs prevails. The fronts are many. While the cops fight on the streets, researchers attempt to understand its complexities, and your children, if they are lucky, are getting the message early enough to make a difference. Here are scenes from your life mixed with the reality of the war going on around you.
Just tell them what we're looking at. It's a different type of lab, different type of process. So
Okay.
you've got a whole new set of chemicals, and some of them will explode in contact with the air.
Do not touch anything. Once we get in there, let's secure the prisoners. Let's get out.
Take the prisoners outside.
Guilt.
In cause number 89 CR 4242 to that offense, how do you plead?
Guilt.
And in 89 CR 3161 to the offense of possession of heroin, how do you plead?
Guilt.
You are pleading guilty in each of these causes because you are guilty and for no other reason. Is there any legal reason why you should not be sentenced at this time? Then again, based upon the recommendation by the state, in exchange for your plea of guilty, I'm going to assess your punishment at 40 years confinement in the Texas Department of Corrections. Each of these will run concurrently.
I've worked with patients that have died or that have gotten killed doing drug deals or whatever, you know. And had you been able to ask that person on that day, you know, you think you'll die from this today? Of course not. Of course not. It's the farthest thing from your mind.
Pop, all right?
Give me something to wrap
Yeah,
it in,
it's all
please.
right.
Come on, what's going on?
We got a search warrant. Just sit down and be quiet, okay?
Wrap it up. Should have called the jail. Oh.
The interesting thing, this end of the tank is that it's had a double wall built on it. And it's got liquid sealed in it. Therefore, when you tap it, you get the sound that you're supposed to get because of the liquid in it.
Y'all remember, I need your help, so you gotta yell at Ghostbusters so we can kill the ghosts, okay?
Well, heroin users vary a great deal, and when they first start using, they have no intention of getting addicted. At least that's what most of them tell us, that they didn't really, they just wanted to do what they call joy popping. But then what happens with most of them, after they use for a year or 2 or 3, they find that they're using more frequently and find that they eventually find they're using daily and sometimes several times daily. And then they don't like, then they try to stop using and find that they get sick when they try to stop using, and then they find they can't stop using. They try to stop and they can't stop.
It's everywhere. It's in all levels of society. It's in all parts of town. You know, it's on the west side of San Antonio. It's on the east side of San Antonio. It's in the affluent areas. It's on the north and the south sides. There is no strata of society that is untouched. It's in our schools. It's amongst your church members. People can have a problem, and some people are able to deal with that on a day-to-day level, similar to functioning alcoholics, where you would never know it, but it's there. Denial doesn't work.
Hey, yo, excuse me. Hold on. What do you want?
Oh, my dad's don't want to come out on TV.
Sit down.
With 7 television stations broadcasting this program simultaneously, it is perhaps predictable that our tips line would be flooded with calls. More than we even imagined tonight is the case. 150 calls are now waiting. We only have 30 or so phones on the bank. So if you are on hold, stay there. The undercover officers will be there to answer your phone just as soon as they can. The cocaine problem. Where does the blame lie? Many Colombians blame the United States. Their rationale: if U.S. citizens didn't use so much of the illegal drug, then the cartel would be out of business.
And conversely, many in the U.S. blame the Colombian government, saying if they controlled the drug barons and stopped the supply, we wouldn't have a drug problem in our country. Recently, the San Antonio Crackdown production team, led by producer Tom Steyer, visited Colombia and found it to be a country under siege.
The quiet simplicity of Colombia's countryside, the home of the mythical Juan Valdez who sells coffee, contrasts dramatically with the country's sprawling capital city of Bogota. Bogota, and the whole of Colombia are under siege by the cartel. Several years ago, the United States officially declared a war against illegal drugs, particularly the cocaine that is processed in and distributed from Colombia. But many Colombians openly say the U.S. is only paying lip service to that declaration and accuse us of doing little to lower demand in the United States.
And for us, this is a real war. It's not a verbal or a rhetorical war. And the very frustrating part is that all this blood that is spilled, all this heroism, all these casualties might be useless because it's a war that ultimately does not depend on us. It's a war that transcends our borders. It's a war where the real issue and the real origin is in the United States. It's in the North American demand for drugs.
Indeed. The money raked in from the United States by the various drug cartels have given them power almost beyond belief. Until just recently, the drug barons lived openly in opulent splendor. What sent the drug barons into hiding and what they fear the most is extradition to the United States for trial. But so far, only Carlos Later has been extradited, tried, and convicted. Now, the cartel has literally declared war on the Colombian justice system. It's an effort to get the extradition treaty nullified.
This war for us right now is not even a war against narco-trafficking, it's a war against the narco-terrorism. This war we're waging is not to solve the problems of drug consumption in the United States. It's become a war to save our institutions, our democratic institutions, the administration of justice, which has been practically liquidated by the drug barons, the freedom of the press, which is threatened every day, the assassination of journalists, the bombing of newspapers. And well, this drug problem has become the preservation of 150 years of democracy in Colombia and of democratic institutions.
Is the cocaine war in Colombia winnable? Most American officials I talked with, off the record, likened it to Vietnam. For example, the U.S. recently gave Colombia more than $60 million in aid. The narcotics police received about 15%. The rest went to the military. But ironically, the narcotic police do 90% of the anti-drug work. The DEA attaché, who requested his identity be kept secret, explained his understanding of that split.
Another reason that explains why more went to the military than to the police is the fact that under the law which the sharing took place, it's very specific that the equipment has to come from military stockpiles. The equipment available in military stockpiles do not necessarily assist a police effort. So the needs of the police are very different from the needs of the military. And consequently, there was a disparity there.
Santos believes shutting down the cartel in Colombia is not the answer.
The Colombian state and the army and the police make it impossible for the drug traffickers to work and live here. Well, go to Peru, go to Bolivia, or go to Brazil.
Program.
The attaché would like to see more commitment for law enforcement, but he also believes for this war to be won, the American people must become more involved.
The bottom line, I think, lies on somehow getting the public to accept the responsibility. And when I say the public, I don't mean just a percentage of the public. I'm talking about the majority of the people accepting a responsibility for the problem.
These Colombian men are smoking a drug called bazuco. It is made from the cocoa paste that is shipped in from the cocoa-producing countries. The paste is dried and powdered and then smoked with tobacco. The cartel had originally planned to enter this drug on the U.S. market, but that was before crack. In Bogota, bazuco is the drug of choice. These men claim they're not addicted, but Rafael spends half of his salary on it. Drug addiction in Colombia is becoming a growing problem.
Our government spends millions of dollars and tens of thousands of man-hours trying to keep illegal drugs out of our country. But most federal agencies admit they are catching only 15% of the narcotics smuggled across our borders. There are some success stories. Here are a few of them.
High above the silent sky that stretches over the U.S.-Mexican border, U.S. Customs planes search for drug smugglers.
And the second one is about 175 at 15, and he's at 11.2.
Okay, we're sending out to 15.5.
Okay.
Yeah, we've got traffic locked up at our 12 o'clock, 13 miles. Is that one of the targets you're calling out?
Affirmative, 10.6.
When a suspicious target is located, one of several aircraft is called into action. It may be an interceptor jet or a Black Hawk helicopter. The suspicious aircraft is followed until its identity and destination are determined. If not, the aircraft is followed to the ground. At ports of entry, drug-sniffing dogs check vehicles entering the United States. A customs drug dog hit on what appeared to be an empty tractor-trailer truck coming into the United States from Guatemala. Agents spent hours getting to the concealed dope. Finally, the payoff. Like a slot machine, the steel containers poured out 450 kilos of cocaine. An aging seaplane lands somewhere in the desert. But this time, the bad guys found they'd been set up by U.S. Customs.
Rogelio Ozuna is wanted for escape from federal custody. Ozuna is also known as Rogelio Ozuna Galan. He is an Hispanic male, 5 feet 10 inches tall, brown eyes, black hair, and his skin tone is considered dark. He weighs approximately 180 pounds, has an identifiable scar under his right eye. In April 1988, he was sentenced to 20 years in a federal prison for narcotics violations.
If you ever wonder who some of these soldiers in our area are in the war on drugs, you're looking at one of them right now. This is Vernon Parker with the DEA. We saw some success stories there, but obviously there are many frustrations as well in the attempt to stop drugs coming into this country. Is that the right tactic we should be taking, the interdiction, or should we be focusing more of our resources on reducing the supply and rather the demand in this country?
Oh, you got to hit every line. You can't just say that we'll take one or the other. If you don't have a strong enforcement team without a good demand reduction program, one without the other won't work. So you have to have them both.
This whole phrase, war on drugs, is really something quite new. Is it just a lot of talk, or are you actually seeing some changes? Are you getting the resources that you need?
Well, resources are supposed to be coming. The change, I think, has been with the public. More people are getting involved, and this is what we're trying to do, to get more people involved in this type of programs.
If there was one or two things that you could say give me this and I can do a more effective job keeping drugs out of San Antonio, what would it be? What do you need most?
Well, right now I would like to have more manpower and some good educational programs in the city.
What kinds of educational programs and geared at who?
Geared at the very young. Education has to be done at the very young. Preschool and just the beginning of school is the most crucial parts of an educational program. We want to educate the young children and the parents of these young children. That's the aim we should be going at.
We're hearing so much more about drugs now. Are you actually seeing that many more shipments of narcotics coming into the country? Are you alarmed by an increase?
Yes, very much so, especially in the San Antonio area. We've become a focal point in this area. We're getting a lot of drugs coming through San Antonio. We have $2.6 billion excess in the Federal Reserve monies that we don't know exactly where all of it came from. That's a 40% increase over last year, number 3 in the nation.
All right. Vern Parker with the DEA, thanks for being with us tonight.
You bet.
As Agent Parker was talking about enforcement, for years the mission of the U.S. Border Patrol was to guard primarily against the entry of illegal aliens into the United States. But over the last decade, a new type of smuggler who traffics not in human beings, but in narcotics has drawn their attention. And in our next story, you'll meet a Border Patrol officer who stalks the banks of the Rio Grande in search of this new enemy.
Border, it's rough, it's desolate, it's a very tough job, very dangerous. And our primary job, of course, is to apprehend illegal aliens entering the United States. But with all this drug trafficking in here, we end up catching that a lot. In fact, 60% of all drugs caught on the southwest border we catch. Yeah, Roland, looks like a vehicle's been in here. Should go down and check the river for any sign of what they've been doing. All right. This is an area that's been used many times for smuggling of narcotics in the United States. We've caught probably 6 loads out of here. Recently, they quit using it because we caught so many loads. It looks like the vehicle backed down to the river here at that fence and loaded something. By the looks of the sign here, we have 4 sets of tennis shoe tracks and 1 hunting boot. They came up from the river, they broke the fence down, stepped over the fence, and possibly loaded something into a pickup or a vehicle. It was backed up right here. Also, right here you can see where they drug something up, probably bundles of marijuana. Come on out, Roland. Quickly.
Yeah, we got some sign over here. I just came down from there and there was a whole bunch of mess of sign of tracks and a lot of drag marks. The boat landed right over here about, I'd say, 10 feet down from the main landing.
Okay.
Probably took off about that point right over there.
On the Mexican side, that's where the boat left.
Sure.
Of course, it landed right here. And they came right on up the trail and they loaded that vehicle. Okay, let me give you a sketch of basically what the Border Patrol does. This is the international border, whether it be the Rio Grande or a land border, which is like in Arizona, New Mexico, and California. Along the border, we have ports of entry, or places where people enter the United States legally. Now, at these ports of entry, other agencies do an outstanding job of interdicting drugs entering the United States. Now, between these ports of entry, which can be 10 miles or hundreds of miles, the people who patrol this 24 hours a day is the U.S. Border Patrol. And we're the only people that patrol the United States southwest border 24 hours a day. And where most of your narcotics and legal activity happen is between these ports of entry or legal entry points into the United States.
This is a live shot of our Helpline studio where our trained volunteers are standing by to take your calls at 1-800-955-6333. We already heard students in this broadcast speculate on how many people in their schools use drugs, 5%, 10%. One student even said 50%. Whatever the specific statistic is, it's obvious there is a substance abuse problem in the San Antonio area. If that problem is yours or someone you may know, please call 1-800-955-6333. These are people who can help or direct you to someone who can. While U.S. law enforcement officials work with limited budgets and have to abide by the laws of our country, large narcotic traffickers seem to have unlimited financial resources, and they play the smuggling game by their own rules. Earlier this summer, U.S. Customs discovered an underground tunnel bridging the U.S.-Mexican border. Its estimated cost? $1.5 million.
Okay, what we're looking at right here is the international border fence separating Olga Prieta from Douglas, Arizona. The house behind us here is Rafael Camarena's house. The outbuilding here is a recreational building which houses the tunnel which goes under this ravine some 30 feet over into this warehouse. This is the entrance to the Douglas Building and Supply yard. The building in front of us is the warehouse, and the tunnel entrance to the warehouse is at the southern end, the far end of this warehouse. This is the entrance to the tunnel, which was concealed with this drain in the warehouse. At the bottom of this drain was a cement slab, which was hinged and only opened up from the Mexican side and opened up into the tunnel. The tunnel consists of a room and then a long shaft which goes down another 20 feet into the tunnel which will connect you into Mexico. As we enter the tunnel, this is what was the false floor of the drain, giving access to the tunnel. As you can see, the concrete slab, what's left of it, this was as a result of our entry, which required using a jackhammer. And over here is a shaft, which leads to the tunnel, which is an additional 20 feet below the surface of the ground, for a total of about 30 feet below ground. Just coming down the shaft into the tunnel. As you can see by looking at the walls of the tunnel, this is heavy blown concrete on top of rebar, and it has a molded top to it, and it has concrete on all four sides. Extremely sturdy. Okay, from this angle, you can get a good idea of the tunnel itself. As you can see, it is molded, all lined with cement. Now what they do is they run a cart along here, which has wheels not only on the bottom, but on the sides. Here we're on the Mexican side of the border now. This cart is what I referred to earlier as what's used to transport the narcotics through the tunnel. This is by far the most incredible part of the whole tunnel system. As you can see, there's two hydraulic pumps here, which pushes this huge piece of slab, this huge piece of concrete, up and allows the opening for this tunnel. When it's closed, this pool table sits on top of this slab, and it looks like an ordinary family room with a pool table.
5%, somewhere around there.
Can you break it down? What percentage is
Probably about 5 or 10% use drugs, some kind of drugs, and the rest alcohol. I guess. I think it's good for them or makes them cool. I don't know.
Next on our most wanted list is a cocaine and heroin dealer, James Lee Henderson Jr. Henderson is a 46-year-old black male, 5 foot 9 inches tall, weighs approximately 135 pounds. He has tattoos on both arms. His last known address was 724 Leal in San Antonio. Henderson has been indicted on 4 counts, 2 for delivery of heroin and 2 for delivery of cocaine. While staying in San Antonio, accommodations for part of the Crackdown production crew were furnished by the Sierra Royale Suite Hotel. Vehicles for the Crackdown production crew were furnished by Fiesta Lincoln Mercury. Additional accommodations for the Crackdown crew were furnished by the Econo Lodge.
You may be watching this and wondering if there is anything that you can do about drugs in your community. Well, if you can make a phone call, there is something you can do. Victor is standing by to tell us about the tips line. Victor?
Thank you very much, Deborah. And you're right, there is something people can do. They can pick up their phones and they can call 1-800-688-STOP. That's 1-800-688-7867. Now, here with us right now is Mr. Sam Ponder, that's right, Assistant DA. In fact, you are the head of the criminal division?
Head of the criminal litigation division of the office.
Now, could you tell us exactly what you're doing here? You're here to offer help, right?
We're here, myself along with Beth Taylor, who's the felony chief, to assist the police as far as making any determinations as far as legal questions are concerned.
Now, as far as legal questions is concerned, people calling in, besides a location and a name, what else should they inform about?
Well, hopefully they'll be providing information about actual drug dealing that's going on, as far as people either in possession of the drugs or selling the drugs. And if it's a possession situation, the police may want to run a search warrant. If they run a search warrant, they're going to have to develop probable cause sufficient to pass the test of a magistrate. And that's what we're here for, to look at that and help them write that up.
Thanks a lot, Sam. Now, there is one thing people need to know. You need to be patient. There are more than 100 calls waiting right now, and the waiting period for your call to be answered is anywhere from 13 to 15 minutes. But you've already made the call, so don't give up. Don't give up on us now. We will get to you. Once again, the number is 1-800-688-7867. Ahora, como decía el señor Sam Ponder, que es asistente fiscal del distrito, dice que él está aquí para ayudar en preguntas de tipo legal que tengan los policías que están contestando estas llamadas telefónicas. Queremos pedirles, por favor, que no se den por vencidos. Sabemos que hay una espera de entre 13 a 15 minutos por llamada. Sabemos que hay más de 100 llamadas, casi 200 llamadas que están esperando, pero les damos las gracias por la respuesta, por la forma en que han respondido a este llamado. Queremos que sepan ustedes que su ayuda es muy necesario y que el número que deben llamar es el 1-800-688-7867. El tipo de información que se busca es sobre posible narcotráfico en el área donde usted vive, y aquí la policía contestará su pregunta. We're going to go now to Patricio and Kathleen at the helpline.
Muchas gracias, Victor. Things are happening here in the helpline. We have received many calls. Just to give you an example, during the first 25 seconds of our broadcast, we have 60 calls coming in. That's about 2 calls per second. So we're doing really well, but we still need more. There's enough people here to answer the phones. There's enough help. And there's not only help for people that use drugs, Kathleen, but also for their relatives, for those that have to put up with the drugs, even though they're not doing them. To tell us more about it, Kathleen has several counselors that have been talking to these people tonight. Kathleen.
Thank you, Patricio. Yes, I have 3 people with me. These are counselors who have been answering the phones all evening here at our hotline, our help hotline. Now, if you need help, all you have to do is call. If you're a family member who knows of someone else who needs help, please call us here. And we've got some stories to tell. First, we have Courtney Cody with us. And Courtney, you've received an interesting phone call. Could you tell us a little bit about it?
Well, it was exciting because it came from a teacher who has a student that's 14 years old who lives in a house that is active alcoholic and drug addiction from the family. And the student is 14 who's reaching out, who's sniffing glue and starting using other drugs and wants some help. And so the teacher is looking for help for the student, and she's concerned.
And has the student ask the teacher for help, or is she recognizing this in the school and trying to get help for the student?
She recognized it and approached him, and he was honest with the story.
That's fabulous. Thank you, Courtney. Next, we have Rob Brody, who is also a counselor answering the phone lines here. Now, Rob, you have an interesting story as well.
Yes, had an 11-year-old girl call concerned about her 10-year-old friend who was on a regular basis using cocaine powder form with his mother, and he was very concerned about the safety of the little boy, especially of the 10-year-old. She kept saying she was, I'm very concerned about this. She sounded like a very mature young lady and wanted to do something. One reason she was concerned is because the youngster, the little boy, carries a knife with him, and she didn't know what he would do once he'd taken the cocaine.
Now, how would you counsel someone calling in like this? How would you advise them what to do?
Well, this is difficult in a situation like this. Although the little girl was quite calm and at ease, I thought she was prepared to call the San Antonio Police Department tonight because she was that worried tonight, and that's what she was bound to. She told me that from the beginning. But I tried to keep her calm and to make sure that she wasn't in any present danger, and gave her a number that she could recommend, 3 numbers actually, that she could call in the morning once everything had settled down.
Thank you, Rob. Okay, and next we have Trish Fry. And Trish, you've also received a phone call from a young adult. What was this situation?
Well, he was a 14-year-old from a north side school, and he was real scared because school's just starting, and he pretty much knows he's going to get high all year long. That's what he did last year. That's what he did the year before. He's tired of it. He had some drugs at the time when he called, was with some friends, and just decided, I can't do this all year. This is my first year in high school, but feeling like he didn't have any support.
Okay, is he feeling peer pressure? Is that how he got into drugs, or is it a family problem?
Well, but for him it was both. It is a family. He said his parents get high, and he was real afraid that he wasn't going to be able to get help. I assured him that there is some help out there for him, whether his parents want to get help or not, that he can get better in spite of that.
Thank you very much, Trish. Like I said, we have a lot of experienced counselors on hand waiting for your phone call. Please, if you know someone who needs help, if you need help, call our hotline at 1-800-955-6333. Now back to the floor.
Thank you, Kathleen. Some of those stories are kind of scary, hearing about 10-year-old children and 14-year-old teenagers on drugs, but at least some of them are asking for help. You just heard that number. Once again, both the helpline, or I do want to tell you, both the helpline and the tip line are going to be open not only until 9 o'clock, but after and then for the next several days if you need help. We are very proud of the response we are getting from our city and South Texas. Once again, the tip line number, 1-800-688-7867, STOP, STOP, if you know someone who is dealing in drugs or smuggling them. You know the old saying, it's a dirty job, but somebody has got to do it, and that's kind of how it is when you're a narcotics officer. Most officers really serve just a few years and then transfer for a lot of reasons. But Sergeant Bob Tackett has been a narc for 16 years. He loves his job, and he believes he is making a difference.
Just see, open your mouth. Did you get it down?
I ain't got nothing.
Just grabbed that beer and started swallowing fast.
Oh, it's my coat.
Yeah, I know what it is. How much you swallow?
This one.
See, Andy. How much did you eat? How much did you eat? Tell the truth. Tell the truth. One time in your life, just tell the truth. How much did you eat?
About
2. Heroin? You got the package good where it's not going to bust in you? Open your mouth. You get it down? How many did you swallow?
2.
2. Is that all you swallow? You're getting a little slower, Carlos. Almost got you, partner. You got any more in your pocket? Identification, sweetheart? What was it, Carlos? Cocaine or heroin? Cocaine. In a balloon?
After 16 years on the streets as a narcotics officer, Bob Tackett has seen it all. He's developed a rather sixth sense about who's dirty and who's clean.
Who you dealing dope for? Who you dealing dope for?
I ain't dealing no dope.
Joe, you're lying, Joe.
No, I ain't lying.
You got all this money?
Yeah. Can you have any cash with you?
Sure you can.
Okay.
much dope did you sell to get that? Who you dealing for, Joe Frank Rios?
Nah.
We took his picture and turned it over to the undercover man. The next day, the undercover man came by and bought from that guy, and we'd already had him identified, and he's going to be filed on at large. Hey, Elgin. Come here, I want to talk to you. Police. Sante. Come on out. Get some ID? What's that nail? I tore my pants on the other day, too. Get some ID?
Yeah.
You dealing dope?
No, I'm sleeping here.
What are you doing in there?
I got kicked out of my house.
Who owns this house?
Mr. Salazar.
Let's see. How much dope you shooting? Come on, pussy. Be lying. No, it's your mentira. How much dope you shooting?
Maybe once every 3 days.
Once every 3 days. Does it ever end, Bob? Never ends. Continuing all the time. They nail people up in houses. This is one of probably 15 or 20 houses that have a little slit in the door. People that are furnishing them dope to sell bring the food by and give it to them through a window, nail it back up. Purpose for that being nailed up is so that the undercover people can't see who they're buying from.
Bob is good at what he does. So good, in fact, there's a $50,000 price on his head. This man threw his bag of dope away when Bob pulled in to Mitchell's ice house. Even though Bob couldn't find the dope and had no evidence to charge the suspected dealer, the man offered to snitch on a heroin dealer.
Come here. Take me on down and I get your heroin picture right now. Right now. I'm telling you.
They in the house or standing
in the house?
car?
They're in the house, but this is between me and you. I can't. Just take me on down and play it off, and I'll go get them right now. I'll go scope. You got some
something here in a minute. We need to find your dope that you threw first. How much dope did you just swallow? How long you been living in Salvation Army? 3 months. They pay you to sleep down there? Money in more pockets. It's kind of like PC, probable cause. You drive up to Connection, you don't know who's holding. Pretty soon somebody makes an overt act. They'll throw their dope down and run, or they'll just throw their dope down, or they'll start walking off real fast. And to me, this is a probable cause. If this guy's done something wrong, he doesn't want to talk to you. Using any drugs?
Sometimes, sir.
What kind of drugs do you use?
Heroin.
Heroin?
Yes, sir.
How long have you been using drugs?
About 10 years.
10 years?
Yes, sir.
How'd you get started?
I got hooked with a guy that didn't want me to leave him, so he got me hooked on drugs.
How did you do that? Tie you down and give it to you?
Sure did, because I was going to leave. Yes, sir.
What happened?
Bob Tackett, relentless in his pursuit of drugs and dealers. Even the crooks respect him.
I know Mr. Tackett.
What do they think of him?
Well, he's fair. He bought you fair, you know. You know what I mean? Huh? If he busts you, he's gonna bust you fair, you know. He ain't gonna play no game like some other dudes do.
What do you mean? Explain to us.
Like they try to set you. Like they say they sell dope to a narcotic officer and they didn't really do it. This one, is you're gonna sell him dope, he's gonna tell you the truth, you know. Them other ones, they set you up, they say they sell you dope and they never sold him dope.
He's okay, he's straight. He's depends on some other, if he busts you straight. You know, not come somebody, you know, that, like other rookies, you know, they're starting. You know, he treat me all right every time he busts me. When he busts me fair, you know, that's it.
when you get caught, you get caught, huh?
Yeah, what can I do about it?
In looking at that Bob Tackett profile, I was caught with the thought that no matter how well Bob does his job or any other law enforcement officer does his job, there's no way they can know every time a drug deal goes down, every time a life is lost to addiction and the violence that surrounds it. That's why we are coming to you tonight, asking that you get involved, giving the help that only you can give about the drug activity in your neighborhood, at your workplace. Call us at the TIPS line. You can remain anonymous. The number is 1-800-688-7867. Become a foot soldier in this battle so we can win the war on drugs. Or perhaps you know this wanted fugitive and can tell police where she is.
Wanted for delivery of amphetamines or speed is 20-year-old Pansy Gail Lucas. She is described as a white female, approximately 5 feet 6 inches tall, and weighs about 110 pounds. Lucas has blonde hair, blue eyes, and a tattoo on her back. Her last known address was 4334 Eagle West, San Antonio, Texas.
No, I don't think any kid at this school would try drugs.
But you know the difference. I mean, you know what drugs are.
Yeah, I know all the types of drugs. I know most of the types of drugs and which ones are good for you and which ones aren't.
Is that important to know at your age?
Yes, it is, because when you go to middle school, then kids are going to start pressuring you a lot.
You think that's going to happen to you?
I think some kids are going to try to pressure me into taking drugs.
It's hard to imagine that kids can get caught up in all of this. No one in Robert Davidson's family wanted to admit that their 17-year-old son Vincent had a drinking problem. After years of denial, his drinking could no longer be ignored. Among other things, Vince was staying out all night and skipping school. But the jolt that finally broke the family's denial was a near-fatal auto accident. Now Vince and his parents are working together to become a family again.
I started drinking when I was 11 or 12. Just taking little sips out of beer cans from my parents, from my dad. 13 is when I started, finally getting some friends that were cool, that drank. I thought, they drank a lot because I was only drinking, 3 or 4 beers. And I was around them, and they were drinking a lot.
I could count on one hand the times I saw him drunk, so I choose not to believe that he had a problem. And the only time that he would get drunk is when he went out with an older group of friends. But I never knew it.
It was easy for me to do because they were, I really took advantage of their trust. Because they were like, well, okay, he said he's not drinking, he said he's not going to be doing anything. And I'd go over there and, go vandalize stuff and drink and stay out all night. Just whatever I really felt like doing.
I think I just didn't want to admit it. It was easier to ask him if he had been drinking, and when he would say no, he told me exactly what I wanted to hear. He would tell me no, and I'd think, oh, thank you, that's what I wanted to hear. And then it would be okay until the next time he would come home drunk.
I didn't really realize that he had a problem until he was about, 16. But back then, the way I thought, he's a boy. I mean, he's going to drink. That's just the way I thought. And when they told me, well, he's out drinking, I got mad and I confronted him about it. And I put him on the ground once.
14 and 15, I was going out every chance I got on the weekends. Stay out as late as I could, push it an hour or two so I could drink longer and later. And, I never had any problems at home or anything with my family.
I felt so many things.
Sure.
I felt hurt, embarrassed. I didn't want anyone to know that my son was drunk, and I didn't know what they would think about our family. And I was mad at Vincent that he would upset our family. We have two daughters, and they're younger, and they were upset by it. It affected the whole family.
What else did you feel?
Guilt. I felt guilty.
Why?
At the time, I didn't think I was a very good mother. And I felt like I was to blame, that if I was a good mother, that I could control them. And I find out now that that's not true. That I was a good mother, and I am a good mother. And I can't control him.
Something's going over there awfully hard.
Yeah. It's just hard to talk about it.
Why? Well, it sounds like a stupid question, but...
Well, I guess I still feel guilty for him drinking. Like it was all my fault. Well, because I drank, my dad drank, all my brothers drank. And so, I just figured he'd drink too.
Think about the moms and dads that are watching, okay? And give them some advice.
Give them some advice.
Yeah, from your experience. You know, for example, you said for a long time you denied that Vince had a problem. Would you recommend other parents do that? Would you?
No, the first thing they have to do is admit to themselves that their child does have a problem. And that if someone else comes to them and says your child needs counseling, not to get mad. That's what we did. We said there is nothing wrong with our son, and don't tell us he needs help. Get him help right away. And a lot of times they don't want it right away. But don't quit praying and don't give up.
Just like my wife said, if somebody comes to you and tells you that your son or your daughter has a problem, for God's sake, listen to them. I mean,
what do you feel?
Just feels like there's a lot of crying I haven't done yet.
Well, drugs isn't really the problem in our school. I think alcohol would be the higher percentage in our school. Percentage of alcohol users would probably be pretty high. Probably around 85% maybe of the school uses alcohol. Why? Some of them think that it's necessary to get attention from other people. I know a couple of people that just do it because the older people in the school are doing it.
You know, you just heard him talking about alcohol, and you saw that story earlier about the family that had the problem with alcohol. And I guess alcohol is something that's familiar to us. But remember earlier in the program, someone was talking about drinking beer up until all the places closed at 2 a.m. and then sniffing this stuff, liquid paper, whiteout, whatever you want to call it. A lot of that is being done. For instance, paint. We all know about spray paint and people who use that, or we've heard about it. It was originally called glue sniffing, but they seem to get into everything. Brake fluid, carburetor cleaner, Freon. You don't always see somebody using that sort of thing, of course. You might see a cup held up to somebody's mouth and nose, or a soda can like this because they've sprayed the paint or put whatever it is in there. I'm no expert on this, but Susan Dalterio is. And Dr. Dalterio, what does this stuff do to your body?
Well, in some ways, some of these organic solvents produce the same kind of effect as alcohol, but they do it much more rapidly. It lasts a shorter period of time, and there's also some things about these organic solvents that you have to worry about. For example, you can see several of these cans say that they're extremely flammable. Alcohol is flammable, but certainly not like some of these products out here. These also sniffing or being exposed to these vapors does cause damage to liver, can cause kidney damage, and also can cause brain damage, which depends on which mixture you're getting at. Can be reversible or long-lasting.
I've heard this stuff causes brain damage, but it's obviously worse than that. I mean, that's not even the first thing it does bad to your body.
Well, if you actually get enough of these organic solvents in your body, it can cause coma and death in a very short period of time. That is while you're doing it. Again, because of some of the flammability of some of these products, and they're put on rags or put into containers, occasionally you cannot get enough oxygen in or start something on fire, and that can be damaging as well.
Why do kids? It's mostly kids who use this, right?
Part of the problem is that this is very inexpensive. It's readily available. None of these products are illegal. So if a child or anyone is stopped with brake fluid or glue, he's not...
The police can't really arrest
No,
them,
they
even
cannot. There, of course, are some restrictions, as you know, on spray paint, selling spray paint to minors, but every other product on that table can be purchased by anybody at any age.
Do you get physically addicted to it? Is there something?
You get psychologically addicted or dependent, and you also get tolerant, which means as you keep doing it, you need more and more of the product. For example, after one bottle of whiteout, you would need several bottles to get the same kind of high or effect.
Well, now, how do you know if your child is using this stuff?
Well, some of these things, I mean, if you are into spray paint, you might actually have some of the gold and silver or some of the better colors. This is not, some of the products have been reformulated. They've tried to make them more safe. But if you see somebody that has spray painted gold and silver all over the place or prefer those colors, you might wonder about their use of spray paint. Some of these products are going to have an odor. There will be some long-lasting odor on clothing or on breath. Certainly, if you work with these in a laboratory or an industrial setting, you'd have ventilation, because otherwise you would pick up some of the odor.
Does a child using these or a person using these seem drunk?
Yes, he does. There's some slurred speech, and in fact there can be nausea and vomiting, especially right after the episode. Very much like being drunk, but it takes very little period of time to get that level of intoxication. You don't have to drink for hours to get the same kind of effect you do with any of these products.
But it can also do damage a lot faster.
Oh, yes, of course. Because you're getting, I mean, the industrial levels of some of these products, you're getting 4 to 5 times more with each inhalation or intoxication episode that is allowed in an industrial setting.
So what the government will not allow you to have at work.
Exactly. In other words, if this is used in a laboratory in industry, they have to have proper ventilation, sometimes protective clothing. These would all have to be stored in a safe place so they wouldn't, in fact, explode. And our kids are out there standing behind buildings or underneath bridges using them readily.
Thank you, Dr. Dalterian.
You're welcome.
Well, as we've seen today, the situations are serious. But there is no reason for despair, because there is help. A good example of that was Vince Davidson. We met him a few moments ago. He has an alcohol problem, but he's under treatment. He's licking it. And you can too. We have trained professionals standing by our helpline. Kathleen O'Connor is up there with them. Kathleen?
Thank you, Bob. Yes, we are up at the helplines, and as you can see behind me, our counselors are very busy taking your calls. We've received hundreds and hundreds of calls, and we've answered over 250 of these. We want to let you know, if you get a busy signal, please hang up and try again. If you do get a ringing sound, please hang on the line. Someone will answer your call. People have been waiting up to a minute and a half for their call to go through, but someone will answer your line. And we've got incredible stories going on here about our future, our kids, our parents, about drug and alcohol abuse. And right now we have Patricio standing by with some more people to interview about these problems. Patricio.
Thank you, Kathleen. And that's right. Please keep calling. I know you have to wait, but there's enough help here for you, so please keep calling. Por favor, siga llamando, a pesar de que tiene que esperar unos cuantos segundos, tal vez un minuto. Aquí hay suficientes personas para que lo ayuden. Con nosotros está ahora la señora Tania Villarreal. La señora Villarreal ha estado contestando una serie de preguntas esta noche, pero entre ellas un caso muy interesante desde Laredo.
Sí, señor. Era una señora de Laredo y dijo que quería que le preguntara a las personas que estaban poniendo el programa que si, ¿qué tantas personas estaban tomando una bebida o usando drogas mientras miraban el programa? Le dije que no podía contestarle eso porque no sabíamos. Entonces siguió con su historia que hace varios años que ella está tomando, que ya su salud se ha recaído, que tiene una hija o un hijo, no me dijo si era hija o hijo, que estaría esa criatura mejor si no tenía la madre, que los abuelos, las tías podrían cuidar la criatura mejor que ella, y que ella ya estaba, no tiene esperanza de que nadie le ayude porque ha buscado ayuda y que siempre vuelve a tomar.
Pero esperanza sí hay. ¿Qué clase de ayuda es la que hay?
Bueno, lo único que le dije yo que si ella se sintió que un consejero algún tiempo no le ayudó, que le prometió ayudar y después nunca le llamó. Y le dije que siguiera llamando con personas, con las agencias que posiblemente le puedan ayudar, que no perdiera la esperanza. Y dijo que para ella no había ayuda. En esos casos es muy difícil porque tiene uno que seguir animándolos de que sigan buscando ayuda, pero ella ya se siente que no hay ayuda para ella.
Y, señora Villarreal, ¿qué puede hacer un menor o una menor si no tienen el apoyo de sus padres? ¿Cómo pueden ellos buscar ayuda?
Bueno, lo mejor que les podemos avisar es que le llamen al concilio del San Antonio Council on Alcohol and Drug Abuse. El número es 225-4741 y que hablen con uno de los counselors allí que les puedan asistir. Y si no pueden llamar ahí, que van con el consejero de la escuela y que comiencen con ese paso a ver cómo les pueden ayudar.
Muchas gracias, señora Villarreal. Y una vez más, help is available, so please call. The number again is 1-800-955-6333. Now back to Deborah in the studio.
Thank you, Patricio. It is during the teenage years that most adolescents develop maturity. But kids who are hooked on alcohol or drugs cease to grow emotionally because they continually medicate their minds. So rehabilitation must not only treat the disease of addiction, but also teach them to deal with their emotions. At the San Antonio Day Hospital, 3 teenagers are learning to do just that.
Pretty good. Because I started drinking alcohol when I was in middle school. Just drinking, then when I got to high school, I progressed to bigger and better drugs.
What age are we talking about here in middle school now?
About 13, 14.
Using alcohol?
Yeah. Well, because I always used to run away from my problems, and I ran to drugs because it would help me escape from all my problems. And then when you come down, it's like, and then you have to deal with all these problems, then you run again and get high. And it's like a never-ending cycle.
What is self-esteem? I know we talk about it a lot.
How do you feel about yourself?
Okay. How do you feel about yourself? When you came into treatment, Joe, how did you feel about yourself? In general terms.
That I wasn't the problem. I didn't have a problem. It was everybody else around me. You know, why is she doing this to me? You know, why am I in treatment? I don't have a problem. It's everybody else, not me. You know, if they would get their, I can't say that. If they would get their straight, you know, I wouldn't have these problems. Or if they would change to accommodate me, or something like that. Or if I could drink whenever I wanted to without having to go to school or having to do this, you know, then it would be okay.
They would just leave me alone. It would be
Yeah.
fine.
After I got into treatment, I found out that my mother and my stepdad had a suspicion I was using, but, you know, it's like they didn't want to believe it. They never actually came out and asked me something, so...
Why do you think they didn't ask you?
I guess they just didn't want to believe that could happen to their children.
Parents don't want to look at it. They don't want to admit that there's a major problem going on inside their house. It's easier to close one eye and pretend that the problem is not there instead of having to confront it with everything that has to follow then.
I was ashamed, you know. It's like I'd let them down.
After it was found out, then you felt guilty.
Mm-hmm.
How about while you were using? Any guilt?
While I was, no. I thought it was pretty neat that I could go around stoned and loaded all the time, and they had the slightest idea.
At this age, teenagers typically feel invulnerable, invincible. You know, it's like
dwindling. And of course, into next week, during regular working hours, the phones will be manned. Now, if you want to go out, get a piece of paper, a pencil, write this number down to have it handy, 1-800-688-STOP. I have with me this evening Mayor Lila Cockrell, who came by to observe and see if she could be of any help. Mayor, we've been getting hundreds of calls today. It seems like the city is coming together. There's a sense of unity.
Well, you know, we just all have to work together because this is a problem that infests every single neighborhood. It's attacking our children, our youth, who are the future of our city. It's just into every strata of society. It's something that this city has to come together and say, no more. We're not going to have this. We're going to put it behind us and move on to a better way of life.
Exactly. We've seen at least 2 examples of the unity that can come together in San Antonio with the cases of Erica Botello and, of course, Heidi Seaman. I think we're seeing it again tonight.
That's right, and I just want to encourage anyone who feels that they have any information that would be of value to call in. Now, right now, there is a wait. I understand it's about 20 minutes, and we need for folks to be aware of that, but we want to encourage them to call anyway. It's not too much to stay on the line that length of time. If you have some information that will be of help, that will really be of value in fighting crack, this is just such a terrible thing on our community, on our children. We've got to join hands across the city. We've got to fight it. Please call. Please share your information.
Thank you very much, Mayor. And once again, we do want to remind you there is a wait. It's about a 20-minute wait, but please don't give up. You've gone as far as picking up the phone and dialing the number 1-800-688-STOP. We will be here waiting, so please don't give up and keep calling.
At our school, probably about 5%. Probably.
If you broke that down, what categories? Alcohol or
Probably less pot, probably more alcohol. Well, we have a lot of programs here. We have the drug-free program, we have drug rallies, we have the drug dogs. We have classes during our PE periods with the nurse and coaches.
Imagine 7 men dressed in police uniforms, complete with guns and handcuffs, singing rock and roll music. Well, they exist, and they're called Alamo City Heat. And yes, they really are on the force.
It's called the DARE song. That stands for Drug Abuse Resistance Education.
And what that is police officers all across the nation. They're going out to the schools and they're teaching 5th and 6th graders how to say no to drugs. This song goes out to all the educators and all the teachers out there. Are you ready, guys?
To give the kids some help. To give the kids some hope. To keep the kid on drugs. To keep the kid off dope.
It sounds like a funky idea, having officers rock and rolling with kids, but as you see here, the kids really identify with the officers, find out that they're really human beings, and the tension between kids and police officers, we feel, has been eased quite a bit since this program has started.
You just
The thing about it is music is our language. We use that music to get on their level. They may not know the capital of Texas or the capital of the United States, but they know the New Kids on the Block, they know Bon Jovi, they know Metallica and all these rock groups. They know the words of the songs. So we get down on their level with the music, and then they start listening to us. They open up. They say, what is it about you? You're cool now. What do you have to say? And we say no to drugs. Stay in school. Be the best you can be. And apparently it gets the message across because they shout it right back at us.
We're the San Antonio Police rock band Alamo City Heat. And we've come to Highland Hills Elementary to let you guys know you can have a good time without drugs.
Well, that's wrong. You can have a great time without drugs, and we're going to prove it to you today. Are you ready? I said, are you ready? We got swamped with so many requests from schools that the chief put together a school services unit and put the band full time. And so far this year, we've done over 100 concerts, which we could not have done part time. We reached over 100,000 kids with this message. which being a forgery detective, there's no way I could have done anything like that. Chew on your glove? Tastes good.
I do. I chew on my glove.
You chew on your glove?
Yeah.
I was out in right field and nothing ever came to me, so I chewed on my glove. Hey, that's me. You want a glass? I've had kids run up to me and ask me to be their daddy. You know, they're so hungry for a role model. And here we are. We're policemen in the first place, and then we're musicians. And so that really gets to them. And it's fantastic.
Well, we managed to get the Heat to put down their instruments and come in here with us for a while. And I think one thing I want to bring up is all the talk about manning in the police department and manpower and so on over the last few months, and yet you guys are still in business. Do you think it's worth it? Do you do a better job as a band than you would as 7 more people on the force?
I think pretty much the numbers have spoken for themselves in that we've been able to reach over the last school year over 100,000 youngsters. And that's one thing that, unlike being on patrol, we wouldn't have ever been able to reach.
And you think you really have a positive effect on them? You can see that?
Yes, we can. When we finish doing our concerts, we're really flocked by children. They come to us and they say, "Gosh, we didn't know that that you guys played guitars and you could sing. We thought you all just arrested people and that."
What about a lasting effect, though? I mean, I've seen the shows. I know the kids go crazy and they love you, but really long-term effect against drug abuse. Do you have any evidence?
We have many kids that come to us after a concert, and we see them months later, a year later, and they always remember that concert. They listen to music every day, and it's really a big part of their life. And so we make a big impression by using music.
You all have had experience on the force besides being musicians. What are some of the backgrounds of the officers in the Heat?
Well, I was a downtown foot patrolman for 3 years. And we got Rocky's our SWAT team member. We have 2 officers from the West Side Substation, our forgery detective and hostage negotiator, and one man from the car pound.
Hostage negotiation might come in handy with kids. Yeah.
Kids are so used to seeing things, like you said, like MTV and so on, and yet you're not really on that. But they still accept you as stars? I mean, do they really react to you that way? You want to say? Yeah.
We're not on MTV yet.
But the enthusiasm that you see in the kids, you really can tell that you really reached them, and it makes you feel real good.
One other thing, if you weren't in the band, would they let you have that hair?
Yes. I would imagine so. I don't believe it's way out of proportion.
When you all first started, some of the veteran officers were a little taken aback because this is an unorthodox approach to law enforcement. Have you won over the initial detractors?
I believe so. We do shows for the kids of other police officers, and they come to us and they say, "Hey, thanks," because all of a sudden now their kid feels special about their father or mother being on the police department.
It just takes seeing a show to win over the critics?
Exactly. They see the reaction of 1,000 kids screaming their lungs off at 7 police officers. It's astronomical.
Officers, thank you for being with us tonight.
Thank you.
I think that it's peer pressure. Matter of fact, I know it is. I know several kids who wouldn't do drugs if it weren't for that person who is supposed to be the popular person or whatever, if it wasn't for that person doing the drugs too.
Drug awareness is a key step to reducing drug abuse, and what better place to teach our children than in school? Even though each program is different, a common theme surfaces over and over. If you feel good about yourself, it'll be that much easier to turn down drugs. And educators believe the earlier this message is taught, the better. So here are a few examples of how our schools and law enforcement agencies are working toward a common goal of demand reduction.
Now, it's not often that an interceptor helicopter lands at an elementary school. On the surface, it is a show-and-tell exercise on one way the U.S. Customs battles the war against drugs. But for impressionable kids, this experience can be much deeper.
You got it? Okay. I might see you guys a lot because I'm going to be a fighter pilot when I grow up.
Are you? What this is for
It's when bad guys from south of the border flying their airplanes across and they got drugs inside. What our job is to put agents in the back here and chase them, and when they land, we land behind them and we arrest them. That's what our main job is.
Coming up, a priceless moment, an expression of joy, fantasy, of dreams frozen in time. And who knows, maybe some small experience like this will make a difference in some kid's life when he begins to battle his own personal war against drugs. Harris Middle School uses as many options in teaching drug awareness as possible, from professionals in the community to the school nurse. Making wise choices is a topic taught throughout the school year.
What we're going to be talking about today is not just understanding how to say no to drugs or sex or any other negative force in our life at this time, but we're also going to be learning how and why we're going to say no to these things. It's not enough just to say no. This lesson today is going to be the why of learning to say no.
A dog in school? That's right. You see, he works here. He's a drug-sniffing dog. Unfortunately, his kind's becoming an all too common sight in our area high schools. Colonial Hills Hospital was footing the bill for this drug dog at Judson High. Their goal, though, is not to catch the kids with drugs, but instead first to catch their attention. A program that targets elementary school students is called DARE. Detective Sonia Dominguez explains how it works.
Basically what it is, it's a 17-week anti-drug program, but it doesn't just address drugs, it addresses other life skills. It talks about dealing with peer pressure. You know, we define what it is, and then we talk about ways to deal with it. They learn something called the 8 ways to say no, and it gives them different options, you know, they can apply. And it's not just peer pressure to use drugs, but peer pressure for any type of situation. Then they learn about consequences, they learn about being assertive, they learn about their self-esteem, how to make themselves feel good without using drugs. But I do think we're making an impact. I know that when we went through the DARE Instructor School, they give you a lot of information. They tell us that there's 10% of these kids are never going to use drugs, no matter what kind of circumstance they're put in. Then you have 10% that they're going to use drugs no matter what you teach them or what you tell them. But then there's that 80% that's sitting on a fence, and they could fall either way. So if we could get to the 80%, hopefully they'll fall towards not using drugs or not getting into those situations.
Planting a tree doesn't sound much like drug education, or does it? It all goes back to what we said in the beginning about making kids feel good about themselves.
Well, it helps the environment, and it makes us feel good about helping the environment, helping our school look pretty too.
What do you think, Wendy?
I think it's a good idea for helping our environment and for the school.
Educators have found a valuable resource in teaching drug awareness, and that's using other kids. Why shouldn't younger kids listen to the older ones, the ones that they look up to? Here, Rough Rider Pride, a group of students from Roosevelt High, present anti-drug skits.
I think there's a tremendous amount of friendship among the people in this group. And not just that, I mean, we all know that we stand for a certain thing. We all know our ideals. We know where we stand with each other. And it's really neat because you can go out and, like, to the elementary schools like today, and they're so responsive, they're so happy, and they're so ready to listen to what you have to say. And I think that's really where you have to start, is lower, because by the time they get into high school, they've made those choices already. And so you have to really be, preventative. But I just think it's neat because you really feel like you're making a difference, you're doing something. And at our age, sometimes there's not that opportunity to do things to make a difference, and I think that we really do when we're in this group.
Earlier, you heard Vernon Parker with the DEA talking about what a drug center San Antonio has become. But just because San Antonio is a drug center doesn't mean you have to be using drugs. You can get help, and here with more on that, Kathleen O'Connor and Patricio Espinosa.
Yes, you can get help, Chris. Of course, you can call here tonight. The number is, again, 1-800-955-6333. Nuevamente, el teléfono para recibir ayuda esta noche es el 1-800-955-6333. 333. Y muchos casos interesantes esta noche. Some very interesting, some very touching cases tonight. And here's Kathleen, who's going to tell us about a teenager.
Yes, that's right. Thank you, Patricio. Yes, right now we have Jack Miller with us, who has received several phone calls on young adults who are in need of help, looking for help, and we have a very peculiar case here of a child. Would you tell us more, Jack?
Well, I had a 10-year-old that called about her older brother, which is 16, and she was very sad when she was calling, and she said that her brother has been using drugs and is no longer living at home at the time, and I asked her, what was going on with her, and she said that she was just real sad and she wanted her brother to get help. And I talked to the mother a little bit, and she said that their son has been in treatment before, and but has not gotten better and has continued to use drugs and has become very violent, and also has been in counseling and just doesn't want the help.
And to get help yourself, you must first realize you need help.
Exactly. If you don't reach that point, you're not going to get it.
Thank you, Jack. We've got more interesting stories, and our hotlines are open. Please keep calling. 1-800-955-6333 will be open to take your calls. Now back to the floor.
Also considered armed and very dangerous is Pete Joseph Paskovich. He is wanted for both possession and sale of methamphetamines. Paskovich is a white male, 5 feet 8 inches tall, weighs approximately 165 pounds. He is 35 years of age, has brown eyes and black hair. Again, remember, Paskovich is considered armed and very dangerous.
If you have a telephone, then you have a weapon in the war on drugs. Victor Landa is standing by upstairs to tell us about the tip line.
Thank you very much, Deborah. You know, things are kind of getting exciting over here. We have with us Detective Mike Bratton, who is coordinating the calls that are coming in and sending them out to the different substations around town. Now, I understand we've already had a lot of action out there.
Yes, sir, we have. We got one call that we sent out on and ended up making an arrest and recovering about 20 pounds of marijuana.
Now, basically, how did that happen? I know you can't give us specifics, but how did that come about?
Well, they called in about somebody growing marijuana in the backyard at a location in town, and we sent our response teams out there, and they located it and got a consent to search the house and made an arrest and recovered the marijuana.
What other types of calls have you been getting and sending out?
Several calls like marijuana growing, drugs being dealt in clubs.
Great, thanks a lot. But basically the message is that this is working, and we have to remember the number is 1-800-688-7867. We go back downstairs now.
Thank you, Victor. Last May, 51-year-old Freddie Garcia was given an Achievement Against the Odds award by President Bush, no less. Freddie is a one-time drug addict, but he has turned his life around, and now he's established Christian rehab centers around the country. For Freddie, there is no question where the strength came from to overcome the odds.
Well, I was a hardcore drug addict, and when this miracle took place in my life, it didn't happen when I called upon the name of Sigmund Freud. See, when this miracle took place in my life, it didn't happen when I called upon the name of Charles Darwin. When this miracle took place in my life, it didn't happen when I called upon the name of Socrates, Plato, or Aristotle. But when this transformation took place in my life, when the Holy Spirit of God came within me and broke these shackles of sin and set me free from drug addiction, it was when I called upon the name of my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. See, I have to give Jesus Christ all the praise and all the honor and all the glory for changing my life. That's why I'm not ashamed of his name. I'll never say the higher power. I want to make it clear that it was Jesus Christ that changed me. I'm so glad Jesus set me free. I'm so glad Jesus set me free. I'm so glad Jesus set me free. Glory, hallelujah. Jesus set me free.
Talk with any of these men in recovery, and their stories will be similar, one way or another, to what Freddie experienced when he was a street addict in San Antonio.
Yeah, I was 12 years old when I started experimenting with marijuana, and then I hang around with a gang, and the gang started experimenting with drugs, and that's when I began. It was because of the peer pressure that I smoked my first marijuana cigarette. But it wasn't long till I graduated to amphetamines and barbiturates. Started dropping pills because marijuana is like a little sister that introduces you to her family of stronger drugs, and that's why I stand against it. And eventually I dropped out of school and I got hooked on heroin. I introduced my girlfriend, Nympha, to marijuana, and both of us would begin to run the streets together. And when I got hooked on heroin, my habit ran up to $100 a day. And I had to break into apartments and mug people and do anything under the sun for a fix. I left San Antonio because I thought that it was my environment. It was a neighborhood, okay? Barrio. You change the environment, you'll change the person. Well, I don't believe that no more. But I left San Antonio for that reason. I ended up in LA, Los Angeles, California. And I started doing everything I was doing here in Texas, in Los Angeles, California. Mugging, breaking into apartments, stealing, and using drugs. And it was in the streets of LA where they told me about Christ. See, I wasn't a Christian. I didn't believe in God. I was a hardcore drug addict.
See, if people only knew where we have been, if people only knew the kind of lives that we lived before we came to this church, if people only knew the hellhole that Jesus brought us out from, if people only knew where we have been and where we're at today, they would understand why we get excited about church.
Decided to come to San Antonio and tell these fellas that there is an answer, and that answer is found in Christ. And I opened up my home here, right here where we're sitting. I opened it up for the drug addicts here in San Antonio. It wasn't as nice as it is now. It was falling down. It was a 2-room house, and it looked more like a drug connection than a program. But I opened up my home for the drug addicts, and they began to come into my home.
By the time I was in the 9th grade, I was smoking pot, taking pills, LSD, any kind of drug really that came around. I began using IV drugs then at the age of 18. I continued with the IV drugs, the methamphetamines and cocaine at first, and as the years went by, finally graduated to heroin. I continued to use heroin for a long time and became what they call a hardcore heroin addict that just lives for the needle. Everything you do is evolved around your heroin addiction. You get up in the morning, you have to go steal because you're sick.
Okay, what we were seeing was this group of men that were once heroin addicts, alcoholics, spray heads, pot heads, pill heads, men that used to beat up their wives, and men that just be out there in the streets, roaming the streets. But then one day they had an encounter with Jesus Christ, and Jesus Christ came into their lives and took all that bitterness, and he took all that stuff that they had within themselves, and when he took that out, he put in joy, peace. And this is why this man that we saw a while ago, this is why they sing, this is why they clap, because they don't have to use drugs, they don't have to use alcohol, they don't have to be listening to that wild music, they don't have to take any pills, any coke, any crack, any cocaine, any nothing, to be able to enjoy themselves.
Tell me about the work you do now when you go into the jails. What
do we do when I go into jail? Well, what we do is we go in and we testify to the men that are there in the jail, and we tell them about our past lifestyle. We identify with them because we know exactly what they're going through, and we go in and first of all, we set their mind at ease and heart at rest because we are former drug addicts, criminals going in there, and we know what they're going through. And then once they become relaxed, what we do is we begin to share the gospel of Jesus Christ with them.
So when the president presented me with the award, as he was putting it over me, I looked at him and he looked at me. I said, "Only in America, Mr. President. See, only in America could a drug addict from the streets of San Antonio end up in the White House to receive an honor from the President of the United States." And as I looked at him, I said, "Only in America, Mr. President." And he looked at me and says, "That's right, Freddie," and he hugged me. And it was an experience. It was a tremendous experience for me. I'll never forget it.
It's under 1,000. It's like 900.
So you'd estimate how many?
I would say at least 800.
What can you break it down? What they're using, a percentage?
Most of the people use alcohol. Most of the people I know. I mean, maybe not a lot, but everybody has drank before. I know people do. Like, I know they smoke pot, and I know I've heard around of people who use ecstasy and just a wide variety. There's a lot of rich people out here because it's like half the people are really rich and the other half aren't. And so the people who are rich, I mean, they've got the money to throw big parties and there's always alcohol there.
While staying in San Antonio, accommodations for part of the Crackdown production crew were furnished by the Sierra Royale Suite Hotel. Vehicles for the Crackdown production crew were furnished by Fiesta Lincoln Mercury. Additional accommodations for the Crackdown crew were furnished by the Econo Lodge.
Ahora este programa está ya casi por terminar, pero el esfuerzo no. Queremos que sigan llamando. Los teléfonos van a seguir abiertos ya después de que termine el programa y durante los próximos días en las horas regulares de trabajo también podrá llamar. Recuerda, el número es el 1-800-688-7867. Now, the program is almost over, but the effort here isn't. The numbers is 1-800-688-7867. We need your calls. We go now to Kathleen and Patricio.
Thank you, Victor. But before I say goodnight, there's something really important that I have to tell everybody. There was a young girl that just called, and she wants me to tell you this before we say goodnight. She was crying, she was in tears, and she wants me to tell you that there is help. All you have to do is reach and call.
Our 1-8 number will be open all week long during normal business hours, so please give us your calls. Thanks for tuning in tonight. Good night, and back to Deborah.
Thank you, Kathleen. And we have to thank someone else before we go tonight, General Robert McDermott, the chairman of USAA. You made it possible with this beautiful studio and your sponsorship.
Thank you, Deborah, and you all made it possible by joining this community together. The three of you symbolize what we're trying to do with this program, to mobilize this community for the crackdown on drugs. I think you've done a wonderful job. I think everybody's going to be out there to wage that war, and we're going to win it.
Thank you, General.
The producer of this show was telling me earlier that although he wanted to tell you how bad the problem was in the first part of the program, he wanted to give you hope in the last part, and that's one thing we'd like to leave you with. There is hope. For example, again, if you want to call our tip line, 1-800-688-STOP. You can call for about the next week.
And if you need help with a drug problem, don't forget 1-800-955-6333. Help is on the other end of the phone.
We've seen a lot of unhappy stories tonight, but mostly we have seen there is hope. We don't have to tolerate this disease which is ripping us apart, tearing our community apart. If we all join together to crack down on drugs, San Antonio, thanks for being with us. This is just the beginning.